Well, maybe while we're waiting for Jesse, we'll just call the meeting to order. Can do a couple of logistical things maybe first. So I sent you guys three sets of meeting minutes, which we can review at the next meeting. And Paul, thank you again for doing the meeting minutes for June 6th. That was great. So just logistically, and then our next meeting will be on Thursday, September 5th. I'm still learning how to do this whole Zoom thing. So the meetings, I think states 6:45, but it's not starting at 6:45, it's 7. So I was following the Zoom instructions exactly where they said give 15 minutes before the meeting. So, but apparently that's not what they mean. So, so that's why this one was even showing up earlier. But I might try to amend the Zoom request just to start at 7. But anyways, just FYI. So sorry for any confusion on that.
Believe me, I had to go up the Zoom learning curve, and you've acquitted yourself admirably.
Yes, well, yeah, definitely. That
Which is
first
to
one was...
say, you made it work.
All right, let me just check one thing here. Okay.
Hmm?
I can share.
Yeah, you might want to just check and see if there's anybody in the attendees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nope, we're clean. It's just us. There's Jesse. Perfect timing. All right. Morning, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Morning. Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We were just going through some minor logistical stuff. So you're perfect timing, actually. So appreciate everyone getting together this morning. Al asked me to call this meeting, and I'll turn over to him in a second. But I think there's just really one topic item, which is a discussion of potential support of Shop's support of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund's request to transfer funds from CPA housing funds from CPC to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So I will turn it over to Al to get his thoughts, and we can go from there.
So yes, so the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is in the process of making an application to the CPAC to move the available balances that are in the community housing bucket from that bucket into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And this is really because it is very cumbersome to allocate those monies. It takes somewhere between using their process, it takes somewhere between 7 and 19 months from the time an application comes in until the time when town meeting can vote on a specific use of the funds. And so we've simply asked that those funds be transferred. Excuse me. And that and we've sort of given them an outline of the potential uses of those monies. And we have asked the two relevant boards, the select board and this board, to support that application. This is, by the way, this is a common practice in many communities in the Commonwealth.
So Al, the CPC, and I served on CPC. The process for approval of funds for use toward recreation, historical, open space, or affordable housing, that it's project by project based on an application and a presentation and a vote to support by CPC on a project by project basis. So how does this work?
So I met with CPC about 3 months ago and had a discussion. And the reality is that doing it on a project by project basis is very, very difficult. it is impossible to have the Affordable Housing Trust go out into the marketplace and actually buy a piece of property. Because as you know, if we go out and buy property, it that is a transaction that will happen, you know, in days, weeks, month, maybe a month. And, you know, whereas we have, you know, this extended period. So what we have done is to, and what they asked for was for us to at least identify the types of things that the monies would be used for, and we've done so in the application. So that, you know, it's really, it's simply dysfunctional to try and insist that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund identify a project and then come back. So even if it were to exercise the town's rights with respect to 61A land, that's, you know, 45 days. That's not 7 months or 19 months, 7 to 19 months.
So just in terms of the logistics of this particular transfer, though, this is an application that the CPC has in front of it now?
They will have it this afternoon.
Okay.
You know, I have not submitted it until I'm out securing support for the application.
So is the application in our packet as far as this committee? Like, what do we? I'm just trying to understand what it is that we're being asked to do right now on this agenda.
I am simply asking for the committee's support for the Affordable Housing Trust Funds application, just as we asked the select boards.
Okay. So the vote is to support the Affordable Housing Trust to apply.
Yeah, they're at.
We don't have the application in front of us to review, right?
I thought I sent it in the packet. It's not very substantial, but
Can you share it out or tell us? You said you gave him an.
I beg your pardon. If you don't have it, just give me 30 seconds and you will.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have it either.
Okay, my apologies. Let me do this. Mail.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Al, I mean, based on my experience with CPC, it's such a a meticulous process in terms of dispersing, deploying the funds on a project by project basis based on the Community Preservation Act. That's kind of why I'm like, want to get this down to a fine point, because if we were to foul up the CPC funds usage and not do it correctly, then that could be highly problematic for our town and the CPA status.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, this is quite common in the Commonwealth. Let me just. Sorry,
Yeah,
I can't type and talk at the same time.
It's all right. So it's actually my apologies. So Al, you did send it to me. I did not.
Okay.
It didn't dawn on me to circulate. I can circulate it right now, but
it's winging its way to you as we speak.
Okay.
It's pretty simple. I mean, I followed the form and answered the questions, and as I say, Jesse, in many communities, this is actually just automatic. That is, the moving of the funds is simply on every annual town meeting without even the necessity of an application. We put a lot of extra bureaucracy that is not strictly necessary. And in fact,
questions. So is this initially a one-time request?
Yes.
To move the So and how much, do you know how much funds are in there currently for CPC?
It's about $500,000.
Okay.
We have not spent those funds, there hasn't been an application for those funds in over 10 years, I believe. In fact, you know,
I got
on the CPC application, there's actually a video they ask you to watch that describes how in many communities, this is simply automatically placed on the warrant for their annual town meetings without
Yeah.
an application.
That would make a lot more sense to me. I mean, I wonder if we should, well, maybe not with this application, but at some point, do that. Just, I don't know if that means passing another article at town meeting or what, but
My understanding, and it's limited, and Jesse, you may have a better view of this, that the CPAC actually has considerable authority. I don't know that this is something the town meeting could act on, but I'd have to talk to town council.
But, like Jesse, I've been involved with one project with them with the high school, the fields at Algonquin, where they wound up paying for some of the tennis courts. And like you said, it took months and months.
Yeah.
So Al, I'm trying to get this language in my brain and do this meeting at the same time. So maybe you can help me. How do we make sure that the funds that once they're transferred, that they're going to be spent, consistent with the Community Preservation Act?
So first off, there is an annual reporting requirement in the CPA, so that every year and in fact, we just sent to the CPAC the annual report describing how we use those monies.
So that responsibility would then be on the trust?
Yes, the trust is responsible. So it's in the law that we have to send an annual report to the CPAC regarding the uses of the funds. And last year we did not make any uses of the funds that existed. And there are some, funds that have been sitting there for quite some time.
So Doug, was there any outreach to, is it Ben? Is he the chair?
Yes. I tried to reach him last week, but he was on vacation.
Oh, okay.
So
I was kind of hoping somebody from CPC would be at this meeting to discuss this.
Yeah, Jesse, I have a call with Ben today at 9. We were not able to connect before this meeting.
Gotcha.
But it was more also just to introduce myself too as well. But I will be talking with Ben at 9 today.
Al, is there something prompting this right now? Like, I know you have,
Yes. The deadline for the application is the 31st of August for consideration at the annual town meeting. Those are CPAC rules.
but I mean, is there a project you have in mind for the use of these funds?
Let me choose my answer carefully. We have a project that we are currently negotiating. It would not necessarily need these specific funds. But we have other things that we have had some discussions about that would require these funds over the next 9 months if they came to pass, or could conceivably require the use of the funds. And we tried, so I'll give you an example. We tried to buy a home on Southville Road. And we offered $240,000 for the home. It was utterly dilapidated on 1/3 of an acre, and we got outbid. It went for about $300,000, which was just mind-boggling, given that this house, well, you could see a lot of daylight from the inside. And other things like this come up on a regular basis. And so we need to have essentially the powder dry to be able to move on them if they come up, or if a parcel of land comes up. And what we have proposed as the intended uses of the funds are things, it could be a rental program, it could be a housing subsidy program. So if you look at the exhibits, you'll see that there's actually, I think the second item is a description of the things that we would intend to use. That was what CPAC asked us for, was at least a broad description of the types of things that we would do.
I don't see any exhibits in the attachment you sent, Al.
There should be two.
The other, the one that's no, it's the same attachment.
Yeah, I got 2 copies of the same document.
Oh dear. Let me hang on. You didn't get the exhibit. All right. Hold on.
I did just send around, guys, the application. Like, Al, you did send the 2 of the same, but I did send around the application.
Okay. All right. Let me get you
So, okay, what? Wait, Al, did you just send us the exhibit? Okay, you sent us the exhibit, but not the application.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
Doug just sent us the application without
All
the
right.
exhibit.
Not
So
the
between
exhibit.
those 2 emails, I think now we have
You now have the full
what
package.
we're actually supposed to be considering for this agenda item. Is that
Yes.
my
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Al, while we're looking over that, I just had a question. Back a while back, there's always been this tension between the mechanics of how the money comes into the CPC and then what needs to happen from the CPC to then transfer that money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Yes.
And one of Dorian's initiatives has always been, although it never reached fruition, was to try to eliminate that or streamline that process so that, every year money's allocated from town meeting into the CPC, and then it sits there. Then a whole nother set of proceedings needs to happen to then transfer it to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And there's discretion, and there's been tension in the past about CPC not wanting to transfer that money without jumping through a bunch of hoops and justifications and all that stuff. I think the previous initiative was to just almost automatically have the money flow from CPC right into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Is that still a viable idea? Did that die on the vine? What's
The answer is I don't know. I think what I'd have to do is look at what's done to the communities that make this more automatic.
Because my recollection was, and this was something that Jay had weighed in on, Jay Talman, is that's the way most other municipalities do work, and that it's unusual for the CPC to grab it and sort of put a chain around it and say, submit your application to me and I'll decide whether or not I want to transfer it to where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, well, now in fairness to the CPAC, they can't transfer the money. It's town meeting that transfers the money. They merely control what goes before town meeting.
Just to clarify, maybe I'm talking about something different. I don't think once the money goes into the CPC, I don't believe it requires a town meeting vote to then transfer the money from the CPC to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I don't think that's correct.
Oh, okay. That has always been my understanding, but that town meeting actually
yeah, we had done some fairly extensive, and
Okay.
Jay Talman had gotten involved, and he, we had a proposed town meeting warrant to vote on this, to change the process so that CPC, basically the only mechanism was so that CPC sort of had to automatically send it over without sort of holding it hostage. It wasn't to get another town meeting vote, but I don't know whether that's something else we should take, because this is one example.
If we can make this
one example of that problem. This is an isolated.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of bureaucracy reduction. We have an awful lot of it already. So I will look into that for something to place before town meeting at the annual, and I'll talk to Jay. And if you want
Right.
to, I'd be
So,
greatly.
and I'm just curious here, I mean, what is this what's the mechanism that we're seeking to get the money transferred? Is it an application to CPC to say, please transfer the money?
It's an application to CPC, and then my understanding is that at that point, CPC, if they approve the application, would place it on the warrant for town meeting to actually allocate the money, to appropriate the
Okay.
money. That's the right word, appropriate.
Yeah, so that's weird. That's that just hasn't been my understanding that it would have to go back before the town meeting for another transfer.
Tom,
Because that's
would be-
unbelievably bureaucratic to say
that's
affordable
the-
housing funds go into one agency, and then that agency has to seek application for approval, and then it needs to go back to town meeting to then approve the transfer to where it's supposed to go, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That doesn't sound right.
well, Tom, like historically, when CPC approved a application for use of these funds
Yeah.
for the purchase of real estate, that does have to go to town meeting.
No, it does
It's,
not.
it's just the Affordable Housing Trust that doesn't have to go to town
Yeah,
meeting.
that's correct.
That's why Al wants to do this.
Yeah.
Actually,
No,
every-
I get why he wants it now. We're all in favor of money. I think we're all in favor of money getting to where it's supposed to be, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, so it can be used for affordable housing. So I'm just saying, you know, we're all of course in favor of this money being transferred now, but I'm just talking about the bigger picture of, geez, do we have to go through 5 steps every time money gets appropriated from town meeting into the CPC for affordable housing, that we have to go through another whole set of processes to actually get it to its ultimate destination.
Paul, didn't you have to go when you did the school thing? Didn't that have to get approved at town? I mean, every CPC allocate disbursement
It did.
for open space, for historical,
Yeah,
housing.
ours did, and ours went pretty easily. But you remember a few years ago, they wanted to use money for one of the churches, the tower of the
Well,
church.
St. Mark's, that was a huge thing.
Yeah,
and it
that
only
was a
passed
big
by
battle.
one vote.
Exactly. So
Here's what I'll do. I will take the action item, and Tom, maybe you'd like to join us to sit down with Jay and
Yeah, that sounds great. It
understand
just seems, I think we're missing something here.
you are preaching to somebody who believes in bureaucracy reduction, you know, and I'd love to take a meat axe to this process.
So maybe the motion is to appoint Tom Bizicle to the CPC.
Well, let's talk about it.
At the risk of
I'll withdraw the motion. Don't worry.
I mean, yeah.
Quick question of clarification, and Jesse might know this. So just to understand this. So if Shopc or the Affordable Housing Trust were to find a piece of land that they really like, right? Or a building, right?
Yep.
And we have to go to CPC to get it, right?
Correct.
So are we saying that in order for CPC to give they'd have to go to town meeting in order for that to be approved? Or I just want to make sure I'm hearing now. Okay.
That's what Paul and Jesse are saying.
Yeah. If Shopc went to CPAC and said, we want to buy this piece of land, they would have to go to town meeting for under the current process for 2 things. First would be the money.
Yep.
And second would be the 2/3 vote to acquire real property.
Yeah, I would definitely tell, we talked about this before, maybe over the last couple of years, but I mean, obviously that's like you can't compete in a real estate market if you have to go to town meeting, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen, right? So
yeah, it's a non-starter.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that would even make it even more challenging for us or even the Affordable Housing Trust to chase a 61A project, right?
Right.
But if the money is with the Affordable Housing Trust, they do not need to go to town meeting to spend it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. The trust was set up specifically to operate in the real estate market as it is, not as
that's the only thing giving me pause here, is because I mean we're being asked to give the Affordable Housing Trust Fund this money from CPC without a specific project attached. So with Shopc, and this may be a moot point, is being asked to give up, whatever power I guess it has over defining, which affordable housing projects we want to fund with this move. And that may be a moot point because Shopc may be going away soon, but as it stands now, I think that's basically what we're being asked to do, right?
Yes,
It would be like delegating it for the use of this fund. Yeah, I agree with Paul. We'd be effectively delegating the decision to the trust.
yeah. Now, in fairness, the trust already has that authority. I mean, it can
Right.
operate without Shopc's
Right,
input.
but to Paul's point, we wouldn't have any say
Right.
in a specific project. We could make a recommendation, I guess, but
Yes, that's correct.
But it's also, that's, if we ever have a project that we want to fund, that's where the money resides to fund the initiative we want to do. So even though the Affordable Housing Trust Fund may have discretion and, they ultimately make the decision, that's always the case. So Shopc never has the decision to use, we don't have control of any funds, but we'd rather have to go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that can make the funds available immediately than to have to go to CPC, have them approve it, and then if this is really the process, have them go back to town meeting and wait 6 months for the next town meeting to approve it, and then have it come back to CPC. That's when a real estate deal never gets done. At least with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, if they're there and they agree with the use of funds, they can give the money right there without waiting 8 months to actually get hands on the funds, by which time the opportunity is gone.
Yeah. So just to give a quick update, and as you know, there's a working group that's drafting a set of articles to essentially merge Shopc and the Affordable Housing Trust. And I believe we're going to be meeting next week to hopefully finalize it. It turns out it's a little messier than we had anticipated. And this is very, very preliminary, but it looks like the Affordable Housing Trust would become a board, at least this is what the draft says, and it has not been voted on, so it's far from official, is that it would be have 5 members, one of which would be a member of the select board that's required by law. And then and the other 4 would be at large, with a preference for at least 2 having experience in social services, public finance, construction, or real estate development. And so that would
no planning board, Al. That's interesting. Nobody from planning.
No. Yeah, the planning board member is free to apply. These are all at large. Yeah, that's where we are currently. So, yeah, I think a planning board member would easily fill one of those definitions, such as a person such as yourself. So, but they would all be at large. The only reserves,
a little bit off the agenda, but just food for thought. The planning department resources would surely be called on for that initiative.
Yeah. I think any number of members of the planning board, if they applied, would be viewed with great favor. But again, this is the only reserve seat is the one that's required by law. It does require also that the existing board of trustees make some modifications to the trust document so that it clarifies that right now it's messy. Right now, the board of trustees can change the composition of the board without anybody else involved, and that's not right. That is a power that we should reserve for town meeting, and so we're going to fix that as well. It got a lot messier than I thought it was going to be, and we're going to talk about that. I think it'll be Wednesday of next week. And then hopefully we can finalize that.
And we have that as an agenda item on our next meeting too, just for an update as well.
Yeah.
So let me ask, because I do remember this from the last couple of years, because we had talked about this, but in order for Shopc to do a project, again, we have to go to CPC, right, to even get the funds.
I think go to CPC or the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yep. And in some ways, we talked about we may have to even go to both, right? Which seemed like a lot of effort. And again, my only company. So generally, I'm not opposed to, in fact, maybe be in favor of a one-time transfer of the funds, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I just think, I mean, we've been at this for Tom, you've been at this, some of you guys have been at this longer than I have, but the way it's currently structured, I don't think there's any real possibility of us acquiring a piece of real estate in a normal market time frame, right? I mean, no one's going to wait to a town meeting for us to acquire a parcel. So it'd have to be a unique situation where literally the owner or the family is waiting, right? And they're willing to take that time frame. So we can't move that much. And I agree. I think with what was said and what Tom said, like, I mean, it's probably easy for us as Shopc just to go to the Affordable Housing Trust to get approval of a project and move on a market pace to pick up, to create more affordable housing. I'm also, Tom, to your point, I mean, we talked about this before. I mean, if other towns are automatically transferring their funds, into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, I mean, I think that's a good model. Again, if we really are trying to create affordable housing or create opportunities, I know that there was one opportunity, remember, that was on 85 that the Historic Commission was looking to acquire. This was maybe a year and a half ago, but it was a small home. But we wouldn't have been able to move that fast to even get that home, because if we had to go to town meeting, they weren't looking to wait that long. So I am concerned with the time frame if we really are trying to create some amount of affordable housing in this town.
Yeah, just at a very practical matter, if Shopc had a project they wanted to promote and they went to the Affordable Housing Trust, it would make a lot more sense from a practical perspective to simply leave the actual title to the property with the trust, because the trust can do things. If the title came to Shopc, because it would actually it would not come to Shopc, it would come to the town proper. And then, if you bought a house, wanted to renovate it, and then sell it to a family under affordable terms, you'd have to go back to town meeting because it's a transfer of real estate. So I think it's a practical matter. If Shopc had something they wanted to do, they would probably it would simply be working closely with the Affordable Housing Trust. And I can assure you, as chair of the trust, we're out looking for projects to do. And when I ran, I said, these are words you will not hear me say very often, is I want to spend this money.
Yeah, to me, this is sort of the flip side of what I was saying earlier. This is an argument for why we need to merge Shopc and the Affordable Trust.
Agreed. So what we're asking for today is simply support for the application. And if there's no further discussion, I'll make the motion that Shopc support the Affordable Housing Trust Fund's application to the CPAC to move the community housing monies from the CPA to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
So the motion is to support the application
That's correct.
in front of us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on it? If not, we can go for a roll call. All right.
I'll start. Stein, aye.
Okay. Paul?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Doug is aye. Okay, a motion
Okay.
carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Al. And
Hopefully we're going to do something soon.
so going back to another point, Al, do you and Tom actually, again, want to talk to town council
Absolutely, yes, we need to streamline this if at all practical. This should be.
Yeah, and just to, without going too deep, I mean, Dorian we had gone pretty deep down this path about a year ago, and to the point where there was actually a draft warrant article that I forget what happened in the background, some internal dispute killed it on the vine, or it didn't happen, but they'd gone a long way down. And Jay had even done like a legal opinion on it. Jay had come before the board and said, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to work. This is the way most towns do it. This is absolutely the way it should be done. And then somehow it got gummed up. So I think Jay will have some institutional memory on this.
Yeah, I think Jay, or hopefully he passes this off to Elizabeth Leiden, who's I don't know if you've worked with her, Tom, but she's terrific. And
Oh, yeah.
I think this is her bailiwick.
Okay.
But yes, I will get a hold of him and we can have that conversation, and hopefully we can make this simpler than it is today.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Any other quick items? I think, again, our next meeting will be Thursday, September 5th, at 7 p.m. So again, if you guys see the Zoom request for 6:45 or 6:30, disregard that. Again, that's just, I'll try to update that to not screw it up. But if nothing else, entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Doug, did we want to approve minutes from previous meetings, or?
It's not on the agenda, Jesse, for today, so it's on the agenda for next week. And I just sent them out, so I was just trying to be diligent, finally catch up. So,
I think,
but we can do that next week. Oh, sorry, good.
Yeah, just a suggestion. At some point prior to special town meeting, I think we should have an agenda item for MBTA communities.
That's on the next agenda.
Okay, and just encourage everybody to review the open. What am I trying to say? The public hearings. Need another cup of coffee. We've had a couple of public hearings on the two recent planning board meetings. We have another one on the 9th.
And Jesse, that's a joint meeting with the select board too, right? I think I just saw that.
That is a big one. That's right. So select, advisory, and planning are going to be discussing specifically the warrant article. So if I don't know, Doug, if I mean, it's good to have it on the 5th. We could also have another meeting, unless everybody feels on the 5th like they're ready to vote at that point. But Gesundheit.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Just out, and not getting into the weeds of discussing, but more curious, have any new areas been discussed, or are they the same areas that were presented at the first planning board meeting? More just curious.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit.
Okay. All right. I'll take a look at that last meeting recording. By the way, we do have a notice for the 9th in case there's more than 3 of us. So if we have a quorum, so I noticed that, just that we could be there in the quorum.
What time are we meeting on the 5th? Do we know that
7
yet?
p.m. It's 7 p.m.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. I'll make the motion to adjourn then.
Second.
Sorry, really quick. What was that next day? Was that September 5th is our next meeting?
Thursday, yes.
Oh, I got it. Okay, I already have my schedule. Sounds good. Sorry.
Yep.
Let's adjourn.
Okay. There's been a motion and it's been seconded.
All right, all in favor? Al?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Jesse?
All right.
Tom?
Aye.
And Doug? Aye. Well, thank you all. I appreciate for doing this on short notice. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Have a good one.
Aye.